Okay, this is page 92. And on page 92, we're going to teach you how to use reciprocals to divide mixed numbers. It's very similar to dividing fractions. It's just one extra step. I think you'll find it to be pretty easy. Dividing a fraction is equivalent to multiplying by its reciprocal. If you think to yourself, that sounds familiar, it's the same thing as dividing fractions. You can use this fact to divide mixed numbers. First, rewrite the mixed numbers as fractions greater than 1. The other word for that is improper fractions. So we're going to make them improper fractions. Then multiply the dividend by the reciprocal of the divisor. That's kind of a fancy way of saying leave the first fraction alone and then multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Show you how that works. Example 1. One serving of Harold's favorite cereal contains 1 2/5 ounces. How many servings are in a 17.5 ounce box? So I'm going to go ahead and cover this up. You know me. By now you've seen that I like to show you this rather than have you look at the book. You're welcome to look at the book, but I like to show you. So Harold has a box of cereal, and at the bottom it says 17.5 ounces. And so you're wondering how many bowls of cereal do you get out of it? Well, if you take the 17.5 ounces, you're going to divide that by the serving size, which is 1 2/5, and we know that from the directions. 1 2/5. Now right now this doesn't really look like dividing fractions, but it's about to because of what it said at the beginning. We've got to make these things improper. It's kind of like multiplying fractions. Do you remember back, I've shown you this image, what I'm going to do over here, a while ago. When you multiply or when you divide fractions, what you want is a numerator, a denominator, a numerator, and a denominator. And if I can get my numbers to be numerators and denominators, then I'm good. So what I need here is I need to get rid of these whole numbers. And so the directions at the top said turn it into a fraction greater than 1. What that means to do is make it improper. So this one's going to be 17 times 2, that's 34, plus 1, that's 35. 35 halves. Now if you forgot that skill right there, you're going to want to practice converting a mixed number to an improper fraction. Now I'm going to leave this as division for now. I'll change it to multiplication later. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this number. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 2 is 7, 7/5. So the first step is to take your numbers and convert them into improper fractions. So 17.5 is 35 halves, and 1 1/2 is 7/5. Now what I'm going to do is go to that old saying, multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal. Now when we taught you to divide fractions, we said leave the first fraction alone, so leave that one alone. Multiply by the reciprocal. Now it's a multiplication problem, and I could do 35 times 5, but I should simplify first. 35 and 7 share a factor of 7. 7 goes into 35 5 times, and 7 goes into itself once. Now I have 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 1 is 2. And now I need to go back. Remember earlier I had a mixed number and I changed it to an improper fraction. Now I change it back to the mixed number. 25 divided by 2 is 12, with 1 left over. The answer is 12.5. And then go back and answer the question. It says how many servings are in a 17.5 ounce box. It's 12.5 servings. All right, so I've shown you how to do it, and you have the example here in the book. Let's go down to the bottom of the page and check it out. Reflect number 4 says, explain how you can check the answer. You can multiply. Well, I'm going to say this. No, that's fine. That's fine. You can multiply. You can always check the answer to a division problem by multiplying the quotient, that's your answer, by the divisor. So if you, those are fancy words, but it's really just a way of saying that if you went back and multiplied 12.5 by 1 2/5, you'd get 17.5. I'm not saying that we're always going to do that. I'm just saying you could. All right, so number 5, check it out. Harold serves himself 1 1/2 ounce servings of cereal each morning. How many servings does he get from a box of his favorite cereal? Show your work. So what exactly is this asking? the box itself is 17.5 ounces. We knew that from the directions. Originally, the problem was divide by 1 2/5, but now it's changing the divisor. So instead of dividing by 1 2/5, we're supposed to divide by 1.5. Now, if you think, oh man, now I got to do this problem again, not all of it, because we already did 17.5. That's 35 halves. Do you remember that? And 1.5 is 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. It's 3 halves. Now that I have my, remember our structures, we want a numerator, a denominator, a numerator, and a denominator. If we have that, we're good, and we do. So now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And check out how easy this simplifying is. 2 and 2 share a factor of 2, so it becomes 1 and 1. 35 times 1 is 35. 1 times 3 is 3. 35 divided by 3 is not quite 12, because 3 times 12 is 36, so that means it's only 11. 11 times 3 is 33, so that means there's 2 left over. It's 11 and 2/3. It says how many servings, so the answer is 11 and 2/3 servings. Now, I want to point out to you that the directions say show your work. Now, I showed my work, but did you? If you didn't, you need to. So it says show your work. If you didn't show your work right here, you got to do it somewhere. Okay. All right. Good job. That is the end of page 92. I think we're going to go check. We're going to go practice this on page 93.